welcome to the SVG-TV news for Monday, January 11th. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. On Saturday, St. Vincent and the Grenadines confirmed 19 cases of COVID-19 and 24 on Sunday. The 19 cases confirmed on Saturday included a national who arrived from the USA on December 10, 2020, with a negative PCR test and tested negative both on entry and 5-day quarantine. A release from the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said the adult, however, tested positive on exit screening on January 5th, and that all of the 18 other new cases are all nationals without a recent travel history. Of the 24 confirmed cases recorded on Sunday, 23 are also nationals without a recent travel history, and the other person being a non-national who arrived from the UK on December 26th with a negative PCR test and tested positive during quarantine. NEMO said a detailed review of all the positive cases reported over the last 2 weeks has led to a minor revision of the total number of cases under investigation, and that this reconciliation has confirmed that there are now 120 local cases being investigated. 249 cases of COVID-19 have been reported in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 11, 2020. 106 persons have recovered and 143 remain active. All active cases all positive cases will continue to be isolated until cleared by 2 negative tests. NEMO also announced on Sunday that there are currently 4 COVID-19 patients admitted for care. All of these adults are stable. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment said as a result of the ongoing extensive contact tracing and testing for COVID-19, the molecular laboratory of the Laboratory Services Program is currently experiencing a delay in the issuance of COVID-19 PCR test results. The ministry said persons who have been asked to quarantine or isolate while waiting for the outcome of tests should remain in quarantine or isolation until notified of your results. Noting that its team is working diligently to resolve the issue, the ministry asked for patience and said that any inconvenience is regretted. There were no large gatherings at churches over the weekend due to the revised protocols of the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment, which reduced indoor gatherings to 10 persons and outdoor gatherings to 20. However, Reverend Adolph Davis, who heads the Methodist churches in SVG, said that they took issue with the number of persons allowed for indoor gatherings, which they found contradictory, and have since raised the matter with the Chief Medical Officer.
We did recognize that there was some problems with how the protocols were stated. So a number of persons noted, for example, that a van can carry 12 or 22, but a church is told inside only 10. So while we saw the problematic nature of those contradictions, we, in conversation with the CMO and others, we realized that what they were really hoping is that we would have a reduced amount of movement of people on the weekend. And they were hoping that the churches could facilitate that. Obviously, again, you have a lot of movements outside of the churches activity. But, we felt for this weekend gone that, it was as difficult as it is to not gather for worship. We felt that it was a contribution we could make to the process in light of the recent spikes.
Reverend Davis said while they have put systems in place for virtual services, they're hopeful that this weekend there would be adjustments made to the number of persons allowed for indoor gatherings, including churches.
We expect by in the upcoming weeks, size of chapel will determine size of gathering, because it was always going to be awkward. For example, if you have the Anglican Cathedral, and you say only 10 people could go in that. But you could have another congregation that is 3/4 smaller than that and 10. So we understand that the idea is to make sure we do our part in trying to make sure we keep people safe. Contact tracing is easy in churches because most of the times we know the regular persons and those who are not regular. Most churches have always been taking the names of visitors, and so it's not something we're overly anxious about. I think for the most part, as I said, there are some persons who were initially, I think most persons were initially disquieted by the fact that the protocols looked a bit contradictory. But once we got beyond that, I think we felt all right. The last weekend and then next weekend we will anticipate. We haven't seen any new protocols yet, but we'll anticipate size of space to determine size of gathering and strict adherence to protocols, which we have done before.
Reverend Davis said as part of measures to protect their members, a number of churches have been purchasing instruments to do temperature checks. In reference to a National Day of Prayer, Reverend Davis, who also leads the SVG Christian Council, said while no official day has been set, individual churches have been in fast and prayers for the nation.
We have not coordinated a National Day of Prayer. We have encouraged persons to continue to be in and intensify prayer. So, for example, for us as a Methodist community yesterday, we had a 12-hour prayer vigil from midday. We fasted from 6 a.m. to midday, and then we had a 12-hour prayer vigil, Zoom online, from 12 midday to 12 midnight. And there are other churches who have been having vigils during the week, but there has been a number of prayer activities throughout the nation by the churches, and it's something that churches continue to encourage and are encouraged to do and have been doing.
The new strain of the COVID-19 virus is still not known in SVG, and according to infectious disease specialist Dr. Gerald Thompson, there are several variants of the new virus which mutates and spreads faster. And so far, there are 60 mutants and more are likely to emerge.
Unfortunately, the UK version has spread to 33 countries of the world already, including Europe, and has now been detected in Jamaica, I believe Barbados, and we are examining various other countries in and around St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That this variant has a propensity, has a tendency to spread faster. Why? Because the tip of that spike is stickier and is able to stick to those ACE receptors and gain entry into the cells in the back of the nose, back of the mouth, and in the lung.
Dr. Thompson, who was speaking on a program on WFM on Sunday, further explained that the new variant is stronger to get rid of, hence the need to wear masks, which was found to be more effective to fend off the virus in combination with sanitizing.
You notice what I've identified? By putting on a mask, do you see how you have able to better protect the back of the nose, the back of the tongue, and the lungs? So what has emerged is that a mask, the wearing of the mask, is a highly effective measure of trying to curtail the spread of the virus. In the early stages, February, March, and so we were more advocating the washing of hands, hand sanitizers, and physical social distancing. But those still are required. But the mask, which emerged after May and so forth, cloth masks, N95 masks, surgical masks, whatever mask, have now risen more to the fore as being the dominant method in combination with hand sanitizing and physical distancing.
On radio on Sunday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said that $8.4 million was paid out by the government and the National Insurance Services, the NIS, combined in unemployment benefits for 2020 as part of the COVID-19 relief support program. He said those who have benefited from the program included persons in the hospitality sector and seafarers, a total of 4,309 recipients.
That's a lot of money for a lot of people. The NIS, their program was 2.35, call it 2.4 million. And therefore the government own is just about 6 million, slightly above 6 million. For ease of numbers. It would mean therefore in extending the benefit to the same categories of persons, a similar number of persons for the period down to the end of March. And of course the NIS will have to ensure that the details for each person are in order and follow the rules for a claimant, it would mean that for the NIS they'll have to put another $800,000, and for the government another $2 million or thereabouts.
The Prime Minister said that they are now looking to see how the benefits can be continued despite the economic impacts on the country.
Already put in the budget continuing issues relating to prime, some things for farmers and fisher folk, in addition to what we have done. But it has to be appreciated that if you're collecting less revenues, or the growth in the revenue base is not as fast as the growth in expenditure, you are going to find that the deficit on the current account is going to widen, and so to the overall deficit.
The growth, that should be the rate at which the new dome at La Soufrière has been growing since it was formed on December 27th, has reduced. So says geologist Professor Richard Robertson, who's leading a team from the UWI Seismic Research Center monitoring the volcano. Providing an update on the Your Morning Cup program on NBC Radio, Professor Robertson said the variation of growth was expected as it continues to grow larger within the crater, bringing with it increased sulfur.
Our current estimate is that it's growing at a rate of about a little over 1.5 cubic meters per second, and its volume is now a little bit more than 1.5 million cubic meters. So it's gotten a little bit bigger. When it started out on the 27th or so, about a week ago, it started out at a certain rate. It increased slightly and it slowed down slightly, and that's kind of what we expect. The rate of
As it relates to the emission of gases into the atmosphere, Professor Robertson said that they are closely monitoring the impacts this is likely to have on people, noting that the nearby vegetation has already changed color due to what is referred to as acid rain.
Think of it, in this case, the plume is simply just rising very weakly, and it's not getting very high above the dome and above the crater rim, and it hugs the ground and it goes into the valley, and it mixes with moisture and with water in the atmosphere, and it then creates a dilute acid that then damages the vegetation. So yes, it's essentially the same thing as you would have heard with acid rain. In case of the sort of the acid rain phenomena, it would be often when volcanoes explode, they push a lot of ash and sulfur-rich gas into the atmosphere. Usually goes quite high, and then sometimes it helps because the fine particles in generating rain clouds, which then fall back and mix with the sulfur and form dilute acids that then are damaging to vegetation.
Professor Robertson also used the opportunity to debunk reports of an imminent eruption, which NASA suggested based on their hotspot report. The geologist said NASA can only see what is happening from above, but on the ground, monitoring is done by their team, and their findings do not suggest an imminent eruption.
I don't think currently the capabilities of the national satellite allow you to determine whether any eruption anywhere in the world is imminent.
Okay.
The national satellite that we've accessed previously, what it actually does is looks for hot spots, and is actually searching for fires, in fact, and that's how we determine that something was, well, one of the ways in which we determine that something was happening at the summit. I don't, as far as I'm aware, there's no way that it has the capability to determine if eruptions are imminent. The certainly ones that we are accessing has to do with hot. And yes, the hot spot that we have, obviously, it's very, if you look at the national feed in terms of the hot spots that you have there, its intensity have changed over the period that we've had, because as the dome comes out, sometimes the areas seem to be hotter and sometimes it's less hot as it spreads. So that's continued, but the NASA satellite won't tell you whether things are imminent, and we have no evidence that is the case, that anything is imminent.
The alert level remains at orange as the volcano continues to exude magma on the surface, and steam can still be observed from the Belmont Observatory. Persons living in areas close to the volcano are being told that they should expect strong sulfur smells for the next several days to weeks, depending on changes in wind direction. Meanwhile, two scientists from the Seismic Research Center, SRC, based at the Montserrat Volcano Observatory, Dr. Thomas Christopher and Dr. Adam Stinton, are expected to join the current team on the ground here in St. Vincent later this week. An update issued on Sunday by the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said the team of scientists is expected to gather data from the dome and crater through temperature and photogrammetry measurements and gas measurements using a multigas and spectrometer. NEMO said that the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDEMA, is also finalizing helicopter support for the SRC team to install equipment and collect samples from the summit of the volcano. It said the SRC team commenced its installation of a seismic station in Owia on Sunday and will continue installation in Fancy and areas closer to the volcano during the course of this week, and that installation of a GPS station at Georgetown was successful, with a total of 3 stations currently streaming data to the SRC. In light of the revised protocols by the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment, NEMO has suspended all face-to-face community meetings to update residents on the present state of the La Soufrière volcano until further notice. It said information to communities will now be communicated virtually. The public is reminded that no evacuation order or notice has been issued and that persons should desist from visiting the volcano until scientists advise that it is safe to do so. Teachers across SVG are being encouraged to embrace technology and to adjust to the new normal. This encouragement comes from Minister of Education Curtis King in an interview with SVG-TV News Today. Today, schools across the nation commenced online teaching in light of the delayed reopening of schools for face-to-face teaching due to an increase in COVID-19 cases in the country and the threat of the La Soufrière volcano in some areas.
I want to encourage teachers, especially those who might be a little reluctant in embracing the technology. We are living in these times when, as the people say, there is going to be a new normal. It is not normal circumstance. We have to adjust to this new normal situation. Therefore, you are going to find that even when school is reopened, that from a Ministry of Education standpoint, we are still going to be encouraging teachers to embark on some level of online teaching, because the possibility is always going to be there that we would have to rely on online instruction for fairly lengthy periods of time.
Minister King said that there are some teachers who are reluctant when it comes to the use of technology because of fear. However, he said the way the world is transforming, all teachers should put this fear behind them to ensure that their students are not put at a disadvantage.
For every interruption of school you have, the students, their whole educational progress is retarded. And there are, in fact, gaps that we are even now discovering as a result of all the times that were lost to instruction. And therefore we have to be in a position where we can move from one form of instruction to the next expeditiously, so that all concerned could gain from the delivery of our education service.
The Education Minister said that once the teachers are engaged with the online platforms, he is certain that they will get accustomed to e-learning. And when there is a serious situation, it will be easier to transition from face-to-face instruction to online instruction without delaying classes.
They become accustomed, and there would be seamless transition, if you like, from face-to-face instruction to online instruction. Because we cannot afford to have at every instance when school is interrupted or delayed from opening, that we have to be constantly training and retraining persons, and if you like, using up valuable time in doing that exercise when there really should be some seamless transition from face-to-face to face-to-face instruction to online instruction. Because we have to remember that our children are also experiencing great difficulties. And
meanwhile, President of the SVG Teachers Union, the SVG-TU, Oswald Robinson, claims the Ministry of Education is misleading the general public on the readiness of some schools for online teaching. During a program on Facebook on Sunday, Robinson said that everything is not in place for online classes, which began today.
The point of the matter is the Ministry of Education and the government, by extension, they are misleading the general public. But those of us in the education system, the practitioners in the classroom, and those of us who continue to advocate for quality education, because the heart of our nation's children are upon our shoulders. They are in our minds, in our hearts. Everything that we do as educators, everything is designed to ensure that we provide quality education for the nation's children. So I'm saying that to give an instruction Thursday for Monday, the authorities have to do better than that. And they're giving the impression that everything is in place, which is far from the truth.
The SVG-TU president said that a number of parents with more than one child have complained about not having enough devices for e-learning, and that almost 90% of primary school children do not have a device.
A number of parents would have expressed their concerns that they have one cell phone, which is not, in most cases, not compatible for e-learning and teaching. Right. And those parents that have, let's say, 2 or 3 students in their home, their children, how are they going to use that one cell phone when they are scheduled teaching that should take place? Yeah. You have a child, say grade 1 in your home, and the teacher decides to contact and to teach. And you have another child that is grade 4, and another one that is secondary school. Right. You understand? Well, the secondary schools, they are better prepared because most of the students have their devices. Yeah. But you have more than 90% of the primary school population which do not have a compatible device so that teachers could interface and interact with them by the distance mode, so that the nation's education, the children of our nation, that should continue.
Robinson said there is also a big issue of internet access, in which some teachers and students are unable to access the internet at their home.
90% of the primary school students, they have not received their devices. And the ministry is asking teachers to reach the parents, and they with the cell phone. When a parent has to go to work with his or her cell phone, and the students are there, how do you expect to connect with them? You understand? And the issue also has to do with internet accessibility. Yes, and the ministry knows that there are a number of students from low socioeconomic background which do not have internet access. What are you going to ask the teachers to do? Go to school? There are teachers also who are in homes that the internet connectivity is not reliable. Are you going to ask the teachers to go to the schools? When the schools themselves do not have good internet, it's very poor.
Police are investigating the circumstances surrounding an attack against a 78-year-old farmer of Greggs. Easton Joseph sustained several chop wounds to the back of his head and was reportedly left for dead in some bushes. The badly injured farmer was reportedly found by a group of men from the community and was rushed to the Milton Cater Memorial Hospital, where he is said to be in a stable condition. Police are hopeful that they will be able to interview Joseph once he is fully recovered. In the meantime, they continue their investigations. And officers from the Criminal Investigations Department, CID, are investigating the circumstances surrounding a shooting incident that occurred between 9:05 and 9:10 p.m. on Friday, January 8th at Largo Height. The incident left 3 residents of Largo Height nursing gunshot injuries at the Milton Cater Memorial Hospital. The injured persons are 43-year-old Nicholson Stanley, 25-year-old Jever Lewis, and 18-year-old Jadisha Hall. They are reported to be in stable condition. The police say the motive for the shooting at this time is unknown. Persons with information that will aid with the investigations and apprehension of the perpetrator or perpetrators are asked to contact the Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of crimes at 456-1339 or the officer in charge of the Criminal Investigations Department at 456-1810 or any police station or officer you are comfortable with. All information will be treated confidentially.